Okay, this topic goes around a lot, not only in the Classroom Elite community, but anime community as a whole. But recently, I was looking up something about Classroom of the Elite, and I was searching up to see if anyone, well, not if anyone, but to see how many people have done a top smartest list of students for Classroom of the Elite. And not to my surprise, a lot of people have made this type of video, but the only problem with all of them, they suck. Like, really bad. And no offense to the people who made those videos and shorts on their thoughts on the smartest characters, but at the end of the day, they were bad. It is what it is. You're wrong. And the commenters who were hyping these lists up were equally as bad, if not worse. Like for instance, I seen one video where the person put Masushita above Ichinose and Katsuragi. Like, come on. Masushita? Bro, Masushita? At that point, I had to make this list. I had to. I'm the only person who can make the most correct and objective list. And if you disagree with me, please feel free, by all means, feel free to comment down below in the comment section, and I will be happy to explain to you why you are wrong. Nevertheless, before I start, I want to say a couple things in regards to this list, which is, for one, this is strictly on intelligence. Nothing more, nothing less. I can make another video if you all would like, detailing my top characters on their overall totality as a character. Not talking about writing wise, but in terms of intelligence, strength, manipulation, etc., so on and so forth. Also, my knowledge of these students only goes up until at least at the time of me writing this, which is a few weeks before it comes out, and I highly doubt that I've read more since then. It only goes up to Year 2, Volume 6, Chapter 3, Part 0, but pretty much for the most part the end of Volume 5 for the Year 2. Also, it's been a long time since I fully read the older volumes of Classroom Elite, so I apologize if I get something wrong, and feel free to correct me when I make a mistake there. But with all that being said, let's get straight into it. At number 10, I have Tsubaki. I believe having Tsubaki at number 10 is a shocker to most people, except one person. But when I thought about it, I think she is truly deserving of this spot and position. First, let's look at who I was contemplating on who to put here and who she beat. So my choices were between Tsubasa, Hosen, and Ichinose. As for someone like Kyuing and some others who are not on here, I didn't put them on here because of the lack of evidence of their intelligence. Like for some characters, we are told how smart they are academically, but we haven't really essentially seen some sort of critical thinking skill in any situation from them, so I decided to not necessarily include them. So someone like Kyuing, who I would probably put top 5-ish, I guess, I don't know, just a quick thought. I didn't put her on the list just because we haven't really seen her outsmart anyone in the school or anything like that, but we know from what they told us that she's the top student in school. So yeah, so that's why you won't see a few people on here. As for the 3 people that Tsubaki beat, let me explain. First, Tsubasa. When it comes to Tsubasa, I think we all can agree that she's extremely smart, but at the end of the day, she's not a White Room student or an extremely gifted person like Sakiyanagi or Koenji, so that just leaves her in the category of being a basic smart person within the show. Also, she doesn't have a standout moment that really displays her intelligence, so for me, I kind of feel that Tsubasa is the same level of intelligence as a pre-time skip Horikita, I personally feel. Now as for Hosen, he was just a tiny bit tricky, but not really once I went back and refreshed myself on the story. To explain why I can comfortably put Tsubaki over Hosen is because if you look back at both of their displays, that being the plan in Year 2 Volume 1 for Hosen and the plan in Year 2 Volume 4 for Tsubaki, both of their plans had one thing in common, even with the same results. That is White Room student involvement. In Year 2 Volume 1, created an entire plan to get Ayano Koji expelled, which obviously at the end of the day did not work, but within one of the last scenes of the volume, when Ayano Koji was explaining how he found out about the part, he said that he knew that Hosen created the plan, but Amasawa was the one that perfected it. As for Tsubaki, Yagami attempted to help Tsubaki by giving her a tablet with the same map as Ayano Koji to help her plan, but she was already one step ahead of him because she already came up with the same plan and had a tablet of her own with his location on it. So when it comes to those two, both had the assistance of White Room students. However, Tsubaki didn't need to use the help of Yagami because she was smart enough to come up with the same exact plan and cunning strategy as Yagami. So that essentially what would inch and nudge her above Hosen for me. Lastly is Ichinose, in which this part was pretty tough to decide, but ultimately what made me put Tsubaki over Ichinose is the betrayal Tsubaki's plan suffered. Both has only one good showing of their intelligence, Year 1 Volume 4 for Ichinose, and as I said, Year 2, Volume 4 for Tsubaki. But the reason I put Tsubaki ahead is because Utamiya betrayed her, which she could not have seen coming, and her plan could have turned out a lot better if she was not betrayed at the end. I think she obviously would still fail because she's going against Ayano Koji. That was my sole reason on why I would inch her ahead of Ichinose, because part of her plan had some betrayal in it, and in which it could have been executed a lot better than what they really ended up doing. When you look at both of them, they both came up with a plan that both of the White Room students came up with. But if Tsubaki doesn't have that betrayal, then we can see an even better display of her probably even getting close to capturing Ayano Koji. Even though it probably wouldn't happen, most likely wouldn't happen. It wouldn't have happened. But you can see it would have been a lot better. So that's the reason I put her above Ichinose. So Ichinose would probably be at number 11. First, I would like to say,
Christian, this Shaq, I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game and, how you traveled.
Man, you're a casual.
Played, 16, so I want to say I'm proud of you.
truly, I do feel bad, and I tip my hat off to Katsuragi, but mostly the author in the way that they were able to make me turn around, completely do a 180 on how I feel about Katsuragi. Like, I legitimately like him now, because before I was the biggest Katsuragi hater, but now I come to realize that he was fighting an uphill battle that he couldn't win from the jump, because Sakinagi was way out of his league. Now that he's with Class D, and what he can provide and has said so far can make him a really likable character at this point. But as for his intelligence, unlike Tsubaki, which I use more performance and feat and evidence to rank her, as for Katsuragi, I base more on portrayal and what he has and is being set up to be later on in the story. Since Katsuragi has joined Class D, they have been on a constant incline in momentum, even stated by Ayano Koji himself, which can be attributed to Ryuen and Katsuragi. Also, like what he has said to his classmates, that since he has been at the top, he knows what it takes to get there. So when it comes to Katsuragi, a lot of it is based on portrayal more than evidence or physical evidence. But I believe when it comes to him, that he can compete with the best. Even though he will most likely lose, he can at least put up a good fight. And he sort of pretty much truly reminds me of a pre-Roof fight Ryuen, just without all the aggression, a lot more mild-tempered. But he's essentially, I would say, somewhere around the area of being as methodical as pre-Roof fight Ryuen. Coming in at number 8 is Nagumo. Nagumo was another tough one to scale because of the people that follow him, and honestly him and the next two I think can sort of be interchangeable. Mostly him and probably the 7th spot are really interchangeable, and then him and the 6 are not so much, but for the most part him and the next 2 spots are pretty much interchangeable. Anyway, let's look at what Nagumo offers and how that plays a part on why he is at this spot. So unlike Katsuragi and Tsubaki, I use both portrayal and physical evidence to support my decision on this placement. Looking at the student that Nagumo is, so we know that he is at the top in terms of grading evaluations, with academic ability being at A, adaptability being at A+, physical ability being an A, social contribution being an A+, and overall he is an A. So based off raw intelligence or smartness as a student, he is clearly the best of the best. But when it comes down to his actual display of critical thinking, he doesn't have that much to show. He was able to crush Kiriyama, the man that Horikita Manabu left his wheel with, but obviously that was a mistake because Kiriyama posed no threat for Nagumo, even to the point where now Kiriyama has joined Nagumo's side. And based on the conversation Kiriyama had with Ayano Koji about Nagumo in volume 4.5, one can infer that he was never anywhere close to beating Nagumo in the first place because of his greed to get to Class A. So therefore, he gave up the fight before it even probably began. As for Nagumo's fight with Manabu, he did lose that, but however, he essentially got one of Manabu's classmates expelled, which is a feat, I would say, but I wouldn't necessarily give him that because at the end of the day, that feat, that expulsion didn't really do anything. It didn't really go anywhere because they just paid for it to come back, so it kind of did nothing. So I don't really know how to judge that, essentially. So and since the expulsion was negated, it kind of just looks like a waste of time to me. Lastly though, the island test, he ended up coming in 2nd place to Koenji, which the island test, for the most part, outside of the camps to earn points, really tested their physical abilities. However, I do give him credit for coming up with a plan to stop Koenji, which would have worked if Ayano Koji never stepped in. However, the only reason Ayano Koji was forced to step in was because of Nagumo's over excessive amount of pride, which I believe brings down his intelligence to me because you have to understand how to control yourself. But nonetheless, I would like, or I need to see more for Nagumo in order for me to move him up, move him down, and I just need more physical evidence and not more portrayal. Because if I see more portrayal, honestly at that point, you would probably just move down for me. It's just kind of just all talk, no bite, similar to Matsushita. My number 7 pick is Horikita. I'm pretty sure you all was wondering when Horikita was going to pop up, and also probably disagree with my placement of her, in which I do not care. But for me, the reason Horikita sits so high on my top placements is basically because she is a lot smarter than a lot of these characters in the series, but it's also based on the fact that we have the most evidence and screen time for her, considering she is obviously our main character. But out of everyone in totality, we have the most evidence for her outside of Ayano Koji. So because she has the most evidence than anyone besides Ayano Koji himself, that definitely skews my view on her. Then on top of that, the portrayal for Horikita is greater than anyone in the story. So because of my projection for her intelligence, I put her this high, and along with the amount of evidence that we have for her, I don't see how you can put her where I put her. Because the way the story is going, Ayano Koji is building Horikita up to be the best of all the class leaders, so it's only a matter of time before she is sitting at the top. But since we are not there yet, I can only put it here so far. My number 6 pick is Ryuen. Hopefully this goes without surprise, but I truly believe, based off evidence and portrayal, Ryuen is the 6th smartest student in the school. In terms of his academic grades, he's not that high, but that's only because he chooses not to, which I think we all can agree upon. However, in terms of his display of evidence, within the first 7 volumes, Ryuen was unstoppable. He was easily able to trick and beat Katsuragi on the island test, and not only beat him, he was able to form a contract with Class A that gave him private points. Then he did well in the boat test. Right after that, then the multiple plans in place for the sports festival, and then you have the paper shuffle. He was doing it all. He has the most evidence from a regular student, second to Horikita. His only downfall was going up against Ayano Koji, but other than that, he beat Ichinose in volume 11. Then he survived year 2, volume 1, and volume 4 with perfect plans put in place to secure his desired future. And it was even stated by Ayano Koji himself that Ryuen's class, even though they are at the bottom, they have the most momentum currently going forward in the future. And then you can't forget, on top of the fact that Ryuen also has deals and contracts in place with Saki and Nagi to secure him an even better future later on forward. So all the evidence that he put forth, I don't see how he is not this high. Also, on top of that, the new Ryuen is much different from the older Ryuen. He has become a lot more mature by being beaten by Ayano Koji, so he's a lot smarter, patient, and methodical with the way he thinks now. So I definitely see Ryuen jumping to the top 5 spot as the series continues. Now, number 5 is the princess herself, Saki and Nagi. From the top 5 on up, my reasons are going to be mostly portrayal and self-explanatory on why some of these people are here. When it comes to Saki and Nagi, academically, she is the smartest of the second years, but most importantly, the opposition that Saki and Nagi. She is there to be the direct equal opponent for Ayano Koji. She doesn't have that much physical evidence to prove her position, but she is the epitome of the philosophy of classroom the elite. So because of that portrayal, for being as smart as she says she is essentially true, quote unquote. Lastly, on a technicality, she is the only one in the series to technically, quote unquote, technically beat Ayano Koji, besides someone else, but no, that's neither here nor there. That's a conversation for a different day. However, technically she did beat Ayano Koji, or has been the only one in the series to push Ayano Koji's intelligence to the furthest, even though we know why she was able to beat him, but technically at the end of the day, she did. With the next 2, they are more of a toss-up, and either one can go at the 3 or the 4. The next 2, obviously, is Amasawa and Yagi, our 2 White Room students. It goes without saying as to why. However, I said that they are interchangeable, but for me personally, I sort of think they kind of are not. I think that Yagami is a bit, and when I say a bit, I mean just a little tiny bit higher than Amasawa. Why I say this? Well, it's based off the conversation that those 2 had, in which Amasawa was kind of shook and scared of Yagami, which makes me look at Yagami as if he's a demon for the fact that he can scare another White Room student. So I feel that there is more to Yagami than just the base intelligence of being a White Room student. So therefore, I think he's probably maybe just a little bit smarter than Amasawa if he was able to scare her like that. But you can also contribute that to he's stronger than her, which is fine. That's what I say, they're pretty much interchangeable. But I just personally feel that he's probably just a tiny percent, 1% smarter. Now, number 2 is the guy who hails from the Yellow Room, the perfect human himself, Koenji. Koenji's abilities at this point has no limit. He is the only person in the series who has pulled off unbelievable feat after unbelievable feat. He's unstoppable, and because his feats are so unbelievable, I feel that you have to put him in number 2. There's nowhere else to put him. For instance, when you look back at the boat test in Volume 4, Year 1, he did not even easily, it was more so instantly, effortlessly figured out the VIP of the group. Then the most unbelievable moment in the entire series through any character was Koenji guessing the sum with his eyes closed during the event selection exam. That was just impossible. Koenji is impossible to gauge because we just don't know where his limits start nor end. Lastly, at number 1, of course, is our god himself, the author of Classroom of the Elite, Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. I don't know what to say. We all agree with AK being number 1. If you don't, you're weird. There's nothing for me to say. The man has never legitimately against anyone except for a certain person I will not name because that conversation is another conversation for a different day. But he's never lost against anyone. But of course he wouldn't lose. He is the god of the story. And that's pretty much all I have to say. But I hope you all have enjoyed the video. I'm pretty sure most of you probably disagree with my list, I'm assuming. Express in the comments how you feel about my list. Post your own list if you would like. I'll try to respond to every comment. I'm very curious to see what you all thinks of my list, and then I'm curious to see how bad you all lists are, because I know somebody got Matsushita up there, and I don't know why you have Matsushita there. But no, I digress. That's neither here nor there right now. But thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe for more Classroom of the Elite content, and